So we'll call to order the Rice Creek Board of Managers regular meeting. It's Wednesday, September 27th, 2023. It's 9 a.m. and we are in the Shoreview City Hall Council chambers as normal. I note that all members are present with the exception of Manager Robertson with prior notice. And set the agenda. Any changes to agenda?
Manager Bradley, staff have no adjustments to suggest. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any changes to the agenda?
I move approval of the agenda.
Second?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Passes. So those wondering why I'm sitting here with a mask on, let me just advise my friends here, colleagues, that I was in contact with someone who had COVID 6 mornings ago. I've had no symptoms whatsoever. My wife has no symptoms, but out of following the protocol for COVID, I am wearing a mask today at this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Consent agenda.
Minutes.
Minutes. Oh, excuse me. First of all, I'd have a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the September 9th workshop and the September 13th regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Okay. And discussion. I would like to propose on page 6 of our page 3 of the minutes, line 86, you'll find the words, after a somewhat rolling, rocky, fun time. I would like to strike that. While that was just my, I believe it's an accurate statement of what I said, but it doesn't necessarily, it's an opinion sort of thing, and it's not reflective of the full course of what happened. So with that change, I would ask if anyone would accept that as an amendment.
Absolutely. To approve it with changes.
Okay.
Mr. President, maybe that rolling rocky fun time sets the tone of what went on there. And when you take that out, not that I disagree, but maybe you should also say that the board accepted the administrator's report, or a majority of the board accepted the report, because it doesn't reflect the controversy that was within the meeting. Whereas rolling rocky fun time indicates there was some.
If you just scratch that, if you just move that, can it stay the way it is? Just
Well, I don't
removing that?
know. That's my point is it doesn't reflect that.
Well, there was a full discussion.
After a full.
It was
Gotcha.
very.
There
How
you
about
go.
that? What if we say after a full discussion?
Yep.
All right, so I would replace it with after a full discussion, which we certainly had. So do you accept that amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Second also?
Yes.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passed. With regard to the minutes for the regular meeting, do we have a motion? Or do we have?
Actually,
we don't have it. We don't. We didn't both. Okay, well, I should have abstained probably from the regular meeting, but that's okay. I can still participate.
I can separate.
No, I can still participate.
Okay.
So, okay.
They're approved.
You read the minutes, Mr. President?
Yep.
Yes,
I did.
So you're eligible to vote.
Yep. Okay, so we'll move on. So Kelsey White, I understand you're here in place of Patrick. You want to take us through anything with regard to project 23-057?
Yep, so there are two applications on the consent agenda for today. The first is the Forest Lake Apartments application 23057. This is a Rule C and D application for, like I mentioned, the Forest Lake Apartments. Information with the engineer's report is in the packet for that. And that is just a standard approval.
Does anyone have any questions of Kelsey? If not, can we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the consent agenda as outlined in the table of contents, approving Permit number 23-057, and recommended by the engineer's findings and recommendations dated September 19th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor, or any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Oh, right here.
No, this includes the variance?
No.
No.
All right,
No.
okay. Yes,
Yes.
Okay. Yay. Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes 4-0. Mr. Administrator, I'll let you take us through 23056.
Sure, thank you. Manager Bradley, Board of Managers next. As Kelsey noted, we have permit application 23-056. It did require a variance consideration. Our customary protocol to date has been a full reading of the criteria that the board has adopted for variance, and then a response from engineer and staff in regards to how the variance application was viewed. I understand that the board would like to waive that and simply rely on their reading and digestion of the engineer's memo. And then if there's any discussion, certainly Kelsey can answer some questions along with Mr. Otterness.
Yeah, just so the record is explain why we feel that way, is that we're talking about a shed, 10-foot by 15-foot shed. The report shows us as de minimis impacts, and therefore it seemed reasonable that we just proceed. So does anyone have any questions about that?
I don't have questions. I have a comment when the time comes.
Go ahead.
I honestly, I haven't thought this through to a conclusion because I didn't get to read this till early this morning. So I haven't thought it through, but it just seems like a lot of work and effort went into this for a 10 by 15 shed. I don't know, but I would guess that we've got to be pushing the cost of the shed by what we've spent on this. I don't know what the solution is, or if there is one, or if there's anything wrong at all. I just bringing it up because it does seem like this here, we spent an awful lot of money on a variance for a 10 by 15 shed.
So
But
when I read it, I had this same thought. At the same time, I couldn't come up with a solution because
me neither.
it would require us to amend our rules. We'd have to try to figure out some sort of new threshold variance. And I've been doing this now with you for 8.5 more years, and this is the first one I've encountered in that period where I go, what are we doing here? So I don't have a solution, but it is something if staff, next time we're looking at our rules, if there's some way that we could easily define a de minimis or whatever, I think that would be reasonable. John?
Mr. President, I agree with you. The solution is in the rules. And my notes here say less proficiency and more labor costs was my comment about it. Higher labor costs. And I have to ask, what was the harm here for this shed in the first place? Well, as you said, it's de minimis, very little. And so this gets back to that point where you have a lot of extra administrative rules here that may be unnecessary. And these resources, both personnel and dollars, can be spent better in other areas. And so, but that's been a long time theme of mine, is that there's far too much administrative in that $1.6 million we spend a year here. And this is a small but example of it. So I think that, again, so I agree with Manager Wagaman that the cost of this shed is probably far less than what the cost of this whole process has been. So,
Mr. Tomzak?
Yes, Manager Bradley, Board of Managers, I would note in regulatory areas, there's always the line in the sand, and when a project falls just on that threshold, it may have some concern. Perhaps it appears absurd. You're referencing comments included the cost. The materials show none of the cost, but I'm not, and I don't know the full cost. The district bears the first $400 for these activities, and the rest is upon the applicant. So no doubt staff has time and input in the material here. Regardless of what variance from the rule is being asked, the criteria remains the same. So we're up against answering the questions, even though they may seem elementary in light of the overall project. And then I would say, while the fill in the floodplain was de minimis or exempt from mitigation, the variance is to the freeboard. And the freeboard is what protects us from the flooding waters and the inundation of the shed. And here, it's been identified by the district, not the municipality. And it is for the future or the greater public, as this property transfers hands, that the new owner be aware that this location and this value of this shed is not inundated and whatever is in it, or may be inundated when the precipitation event occurs.
Yeah, I don't have any grievance whatsoever with protecting the future landowners, and that's always been my concern. My concern was this landowner is willing to accept the risk, but what about the future landowners? And if nothing else, this presumably will provide some record that it was done with knowledge.
Yes, Manager Bradley, that's correct. It requires the landowner to record it on the property.
Yeah.
And as recently we had discussions about the climate resiliency project and the identified hotspots within the district where these things are amplified. So I think this is a good practice for the public good. Thanks.
Mr. President,
Yep.
could I just say one thing?
Certainly.
That almost bothers me more when I hear that the landowner bore the cost, and it probably cost him more for the permit than for the shed. That does bother me, and I don't know that there's an answer to it. I don't disagree with anything anybody said here at all. It just, if there is a way, it'd be nice to look at it if there's a way to do something about it, but I think it's worse if the landowner had to pay it all and for the shed.
So,
Chris?
Yeah, Mr. President, I think that there's been a lot of good points brought up here today, and certainly we have modified the rule in the past as we've recognized variances that have, we've seen, that could potentially be avoided. And one of those was when we modified Rule E to provide a bigger de minimis on floodplain fills. And perhaps there might be some place in here to modify the requirement here to avoid, this kind of situation with maybe a lower risk type of building. And I think that worth investigating to see how that might, when we move forward with another consideration of rule revision, and I'll have it on the list.
That would be great.
Beautiful.
It may be something so simple as saying, once you determine what the de minimis is, you still would require it be reported on the deed. So future buyers know that this thing is out of compliance with our direct rules.
so, Mr. President, I'm surprised to hear that this is being built without the city's input. The city would have some decision-making, giving a building permit, and would have an idea of what the floodplain is and fills and such. And so, because the city is the flood control, basically within the city, they're the MSS4s.
Mr. Manager.
Manager Bradley, Manager Waller, I didn't say that it was proceeded without the city's input. I said that the city was not a part of the variance activity that we have here. They are the FEMA regulatory entity. The district is the one that defines the standard by which FEMA establishes a floodplain elevation.
So I'm going to call this thing, I think we've had a good discussion. All in favor say aye.
You need a motion.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Um, We
Aye.
need to make a motion on the
Yeah, I don't think
variance.
there was a
Oh, okay.
motion.
And
2
then the
points?
permit
All
on
right, thank you.
24.
Thank you
So,
for keeping me honest.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the variance request for variance application 23-056 as outlined in accordance with the RCWD District Engineers Variance Technical Memorandum dated September 19th, 2023.
I second that. Any discussion of that issue? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And Mr. Chair, I move to approve permit number 23-056 as outlined in RCWD District Engineers Finding and Recommendations dated September 19th, 2023.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
And
Chris has something.
Manager Ryan, just one clarification. We are conditionally approving or cap rock for this this variance request. and
Approve cap
application.
rock.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Chris, did you have
No, I was going to bring up the same thing.
something? Fabulous. Thank you for our staff's keen attention. All in favor of cap rocking this as set forth in the district engineer's findings and recommendations, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you. So, Mr. Administrator,
yes, Manager Bradley, Board of Managers, thanks for the discussion on the variance. Like Chris said, we'll keep that on the list and look at alternatives there for rule revision. Next on the agenda is the open mic public comment.
don't see anyone in the audience, anyone on the phone other than our staff? I think we can proceed.
Yes, Manager Bradley, next on the agenda are the items requiring board action. First, we have the Miron Water Quality Grant Contract Extension, W20-02, and Molly is here to speak to that matter.
Good morning, Mr. President, Board of Managers. For your consideration today, we have a extension of Water Quality Grant Program Contract W20-02, the Miron Waste Storage Facility and Stormwater Diversion Project. This agreement was made in partnership with the Washington Conservation District and Minnesota Natural Resources Conservation Service back in August of 2020, and there was an extension in February of 2022. The purpose of the prior extension and the extension you have before you today is because the applicant was waiting on an additional grant from the NRCS. We have confirmation that the NRCS will be providing grant funds for this project, and project work will begin in 2024. District staff and the administrator have set aside some funds for the budget, for the 2024 budget through the Water Quality Grant Program for this project. A few changes of note to the contract before you today. There is a new project cost that was assessed from the original project cost of $272,299.06. It has changed to $373,437.60. Additionally, there is a new project effective lifespan. It has been changed from 10 years to 15 years, as both district staff and the staff at Washington Conservation District see that that is fit for this project. One additional item of note is that due to some private circumstances, the applicant has not been able to sign the contract yet. I did get approval from our administrator that we can proceed with signatures today, and then we will work to get that signature on a later date, and project work will not begin until we receive that signature and the contract is filed with the district. If you have any questions on the process or the application, I invite you to ask them now.
Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Manager.
So I'm thinking of the funding here, and this is watershed money. It's not clean water funds. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
If it was originally approved in 2020, are those dollars earmarked and then put into another account? Or are we taking it out of this coming year's funds? How are we doing with the funds?
Yes.
What are we doing with the funds?
Manager Bradley, Manager Wine, the district annually examines, as we move forward with the budget, to identify any project in which the board has committed to provide funds, but the project has yet not resolved.
Okay.
In that case, we take the customary amount of the program, and then we add those dollars to it. And so we're technically reserving them out of the fund balance to show that they'll be spent in the coming year. In this case, it's $30,000, and that is within your budget both for 2023 as well as 2024. Not to say that it's duplicated, but it's just that running push, if you will, of committed dollars.
Thank you.
I have a comment when we're done.
All right.
This is just a general comment. I have no problems with Mr. Miron's contract here, but I think it's important that when it's businesses that we're giving grant money to, that the businesses are put in a big share, because I think we're getting into the picking winners and losers here. When you're giving money to one company and not another company and whatever, I feel as though they should have to have a hefty investment in it themselves in order to qualify.
Mr. President, I don't disagree with that. My past voting record, for example, for the Bald Eagle Phosphorus Reduction Program, which was the money that we used for the golf course to have the now very widely accepted program of reuse and irrigation. One of my objections about that at the time was that the business, the golf course, didn't put very much money into it, very, very, very little. In fact, I can remember being at a meeting where they asked the district to pay for the electricity costs for the pump for the 25 years. Boldness of that. Anyways, by the way, we didn't pay for that, but and this was clean water money, I believe, on that one. It wasn't necessarily district money. But a few comments about what's going on here. First of all, the COVID program was involved, and that's had an impact on this development here, working with the Soil and Water Conservation District and with the state agencies that are involved here, the Department of Agriculture, and with the NCRS. They just when they finally got around to being involved, catching up with it, decided that the engineering work that had been done that was acceptable by Washington Conservation District and the state wasn't acceptable by them over this liability issue. Their engineer didn't do the work, so that's caused a whole set of borings that had to be done and some delay in this too. So it's good to see this program finally come about and it has an impact on the water quality system for JD2 and eventually Peltier Lake is the resource of concern. Thank you.
Could I make one more comment?
Go ahead.
On this particular one, I know Mr. Miron is looking for funding for his part of it, but I still think when he's all done, he'll have a lot of his own money invested in this. I don't think this is going to be a cheap thing, and I believe he will have put in plenty by the time this is over, so I don't have a problem with this one. I just as a general rule, I think that they should.
No, I'm totally acceptable with that. I agree with that all along the ways. I'm not surprised, I guess, at the huge cost increase that Molly's pointed out. I expect there'll be another one yet with the way things are going. But yeah, to me, that's important. I grew up with programs where you always put 25% in as individual farmers on the conservation issues. Of course, those programs these days are considered evil. We don't do those anymore. Programs from the 50s and 60s.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
you have a motion?
No.
Oh, okay, let's go
Here,
for a motion.
I can
Yeah,
amend that.
okay.
I move to amend the W 20-02 Water Quality Grant Program contract between the Rice Creek Watershed District and Fran Miron by extending the expiration date to March 27th, 2025, and authorize the board president to sign the agreement.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None here. Passes 4-0. Thank you for that discussion.
Thank you.
Mr. Administrator.
Yes, Manager Bradley, Board of Managers. Next on your agenda is the Houston Engineering Task Order 23-010. This is Public Drainage System Level 2 and 3 Inspections Task Order. Tom Schmidt is here to speak to the matter. It is found on page 46 of your packet.
Bless you.
Good morning, Mr. President. I'm waiting for the podium to lower.
Must have a short.
Very touchy. More.
That's good. Got a phone book? I can stand on that.
It's nice to see your eyes, Tom.
Mr. President, Board of Managers, thank you, Nick. As Nick pointed out, for your consideration today is a task order for our engineers to complete the scheduled 2023 public drainage system level 2 and 3 inspections. These are inspections that are beyond the staff level observational inspections, survey and drone flights. The work is parts of ACT 5362, branch 2, all of for drone flights, and then JD2 upstream of the weir at Rice Lake. That part fulfills our JPA with the DNR for the management of the weir, of the channel upstream of the weir. And the field survey is for 102232, all of the main trunk, branches 1, 2, and 3, and 4, not upstream of Pine Street, because those were done as part of the ongoing alternative analysis that were recently completed. And the entire JD2 main trunk, except for the part upstream of the weir, because that is not really accessible by foot, so. Staff is recommending that we proceed with that because these are important tools in our ability to plan for maintenance in the future. So there is a motion, proposed motion on page 46, I believe.
Anyone have any questions?
Mr. President, I'll make the motion to authorize the board president to execute the HEI task order 2023-10 to schedule and complete level 2 and 3 inspections for the amount of $19,800.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Mr. President, I support much more of this. I think you've heard me in the past, and I'm going to be boring you with that same mantra, that we don't spend enough of our resources on the drainage system, our stormwater conveyance system. And I think that needs a long time to look at this, how it's done. I'm glad to see this is done. But when these aren't, for example, I don't think there's anybody's very large amount of work been done on these drainage systems over the years, and the result becomes is we're going to be faced with the estimate of the 22 million, which is 4 years old for the Ramsey County system. And our primary mission here is stormwater conveyance system or flood control maintenance. And that's, to me, number one. And over the years, with over 100 miles of ditches and streams in addition to those, you have to have a greater staff than one or two, and inspection schedules more often. Your city streets are not, you don't look at those every 5 to 6 years. They're out there constantly taking a look at what goes on. But without the resources of staff and funding, you end up with projects that are cost just huge amounts of money, and such as we're going to see here in Ramsey County. And I'm not against that project, by the way. I'm all for it. I've been a backer of it for a long time. But that's a primary mission here, and I think that's something we should take a look at. With that, Mr. President, I yield back the floor.
Thank you. I think it's fair to say that as a board, we have established, with the assistance of our wonderful staff, of course, a schedule for all of our facilities, ditches. We have a schedule for how we're going to finish repairing the remaining ditches that have not. They're hugely expensive to do. We can only accommodate what we can bite off each year. And we are working to maintain and improve always what we have done in the past and what we plan to do in the future. And so with that, are there any further discussions before I call for a vote?
Mr. President, I don't disagree with you, but I would say that we need to do much more in this and much greater emphasis on maintaining the stormwater conveyance system.
I would like to just say that I agree 100%. I think it's critical that we do the ongoing maintenance. The beaver dams and stuff are just a disaster, and it's nobody's fault, but it takes people on the ground looking all the time to find that stuff. And so I do agree with John that we need more robust help or a way to get a better handle on keeping them up so that we're not in the position of having the expensive projects that we're having now. That's it. That's all I had.
Very good. So all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. It passes 4-0. Thank you.
Manager Bradley.
Mr. Administrator.
Yes, next on your agenda is action item number 3. This is for the 2024 Stormwater Management Grant. It's your authorization to release the program and also consider Houston Engineering Task Order to review the submitted applications. We do have Will Roach here to represent this item.
Welcome, Mr. Wright.
Thank you. Good morning, President Bradley, Board of Managers. As Nick noted, today I've got the request for proposal package documents on page 54 of your agenda package. And then as well as the Houston task order for engineering review of those future applications on page 63. Staff is asking for approval to release that RFP package and to solicit applications for the 2024 Stormwater Management Grant Program year, and the approval of that task order for Houston to be able to do that engineering review and assist in the scoring and ranking process later this winter. The district has $300,000 from its ad valorem levy to for grant funding to our partners for structural stormwater improvements to treat water quality and mitigate flood risk. In the program documents, there are no significant language changes proposed. There is one minor addition to section 6 of the application form that just includes some language about asking applicants where they first heard of the Stormwater Management Grant Program. That language was added at the request of the CAC.
Good idea.
And Yeah, and then on page 53 of the packet, there are two proposed motions. One to approve and authorize the release of the RFP package, and then the second to execute the task order 23-011 for Houston's review of those future applications.
Mr. Administrator, first of all, I apologize. I misheard you say his name. Of course, it was Will Roach, and I apologize for that. So other than municipalities, cities, counties, this is not a grant that's available to individuals, is it?
So the way the program language is kind of worded in the watershed management program, it does note those municipal partners. I know in the past, I believe we've had residents express an interest in the stormwater management grant program, and in discussions with other staff members who have had had those discussions with residents. I think it's been something where they've been kind of more directed to less competitive grant opportunities that the district has.
So I was just trying to figure out why the CAC was concerned about where they heard about a program that's only available to our partners that we communicate with directly. So I'm just,
Manager Bradley, Board of Managers, Will is correct. We have had in the previous year a private landowner ask for assistance through this program, to which we deferred them to what other programs we have available. These dollars are typically associated with the public entities, as you noted, cities, counties, et cetera, semi-public, university institutions, if you will, that have a longevity and a likelihood of success on the landscape and fulfilling the obligation of maintenance and so forth.
so while I appreciate the CAC's suggestion, I'm just curious if we just added one more step that's not necessary.
I agree, and that,
Mr. President, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
Well, thank you. I was at the CAC meeting and when they were discussing this, and I think what is one of the priorities of the Citizens Advisory Committee is how you interface with the public. So always trying to, just another data point to figure out where information is going, how people get their communication, and how we can improve that and continue to enhance that. Would you point out where that is at in the application, the request for?
Yeah, so that is on page 56 of the packet, under section 6 on the application form.
Oh, right there, and how you heard about the program.
Yep.
So it's simply in the essay part of the test that would say, I heard about it at the city-county meeting, or I saw it on the Facebook page, or
So
something.
I don't want them to have to spend an hour trying to figure out where they first heard about this.
So,
This is something we do every year.
Yeah.
It should be on their calendars, if nothing else. And I'm just concerned that we're adding one more step and one more hour of work and preparation for an application that we would consider regardless of where they heard it. Go ahead, Administrator.
Manager Bradley, Board of Managers, perhaps we can adjust the language ever so slightly to say, if you please, optional, something like that. I think the CAC's intention was well-founded. So if we had an individual who came forth as we had, like, how did this information get out or get to this spot?
Stop it from happening in the future, right?
Yes, perhaps that would be valuable to us. But other than that, Will has put together, as is customary, confirming all our municipal partners and such, and we have a running list of those that will receive directly. So 99% of the time, I think the statement's going to be, you sent it to us. So I defer to the board and what it would like to do.
Marcy convinced me this isn't a mistake.
Well, do we contact every school district, every library, every church?
Why would we?
Because these are eligible. They're funding to assist, top of page 54, cities, counties, school districts, libraries, and other public and private entities with the implementation of the stormwater management
Well,
project.
maybe we've just found another problem.
Yeah, the private entity part, I don't understand that.
Yeah. Manager Bradley, Board of Managers, what I would say is any private entity application, in the moment I can't think of an example, but I will create one. A large company that has a grounds, a campus, if you will, and they were interested in cost share with the district and you found it valuable for the resource, this would be one avenue in which they could apply and do it. And there, we would look for them to record and maintain that obligation.
So you're suggesting now we have a duty to reach out beyond all of our partners where we intend the money to go, to hope for an outreach of a library, and I'm suggesting that's not a good idea.
Mr. President, go ahead.
Well, I want to be clear, because it does make a big difference. I was under the impression when I read that private entities were eligible. And so, I mean, I just want to make sure that that's clear. Is that the fact? So a private entity actually can?
Can I give an example?
Yeah, please.
So when I was on the CAC, we had an application for this money from a church that was on Rice Creek Boulevard, I believe. And they had a large campus, and they had opportunity to do some stormwater management in collaboration with the city. So it was the church that initiated the work. I don't quite know how the money all sorted out, but the funds were used for the project, whether that project was the responsibility of the city and or the church. But somehow we funded it collectively. Yes.
Board of Managers, apologies for the interruption. We have some technical difficulties with remote joiners sharing their audio, so I'm just going to read a comment from Kendra.
Okay.
She provided an example for the Forest Lake High School water cistern / reuse project funded by Stormwater Management Grant.
Yes, that's true. That was a stormwater management grant for $505,000, of which the district was a partner to, but the applicant was the school district itself. And it's an example. There are other examples. My question, Mr. President, is what's the problem with the current draft do we use? Why is this all brand new stuff?
No, it's not brand new. It's not brand new. It's just
There's only
added.
one change.
Well, I'm saying, is that's all there is? So my question, when I wrote it, what is the problem with the current program? And why is this, because as far as I could see, it was, to use that mantra of mine again, less productivity and added labor costs by adding that, search. I agree with you, Mr. President. So I don't see where there's a big need to change anything in this at all.
Mr. President,
Yes?
we asked the Citizens Advisory Committee to do a whole lot of work on this grant program. And I think over the course of the years, they have really worked hard to get the application process to find the information that they need to make additional decisions. Now, if you recall, there are 3 levels of review on this grant program. One of them is with Houston. One of them is with the Citizens Advisory Committee. And for those of you that have seen it, you see how they have, their Excel spreadsheet, and they look at these very closely. And then the 3rd level of review, as I recall, is a technical team that has the county's staff as well as Rice Creek staff that review it.
Rice Creek staff.
Right.
Rice Creek.
So
It's not a TEP panel. It's
Correct.
only Rice Creek staff, no county, no city, nobody
Okay, a
else.
tech panel that, so in other words,
Internal tech.
they take very seriously the $300,000 that this board levies from the residents of the watershed and wants to make sure that stormwater management is highlighted, all part of the stormwater conveyance system. So I think to honor the good work of the Citizens Advisory Committee, adding a simple line of where you heard this is no big deal, doesn't take an hour. The person is the staff person of the person who is making the application simply says, I heard it in a church bulletin, or I heard it here or there, as a way to track how the outreach of the watershed, how best the outreach of the watershed is working.
So I would like to propose a modest modification. So 1, 2, 3, 4 lines down, the line begins with the word must. Clearly, we would not reject a government application because they failed to comply with that
Okay,
new requirement.
okay.
We can replace must with should, or just strike must entirely so that and how you heard about the program be included.
Mr. President, may I make one comment?
Certainly.
I agree with you, and I take what the CAC committee does very seriously, and I really look at it because I think they look at it from a different eye than us, but I do not believe that we are always going to agree with them, and we're not obligated. We're never going to completely agree with what the Citizens Advisory Committee comes up with, and there's going to be times we're not going to agree. And that doesn't mean they're wrong. It doesn't mean anything. I think they do an excellent job and take their job really seriously, but we can't just accept what they say just because they worked hard on it. We have to make our own decision.
Clearly, we do not want to indicate some sort of rift between us and the CAC.
Not at all.
So
I respect them.
Okay, so I would like to move this along by making a motion that authorize staff to initiate the 2024 Stormwater Management Grant Program, notify potential applicants of funding availability by publishing attached requests for proposals as modified to replace the word must with the word should.
I would second that, Mr. Chair, and I would also say that I'm sure that CAC would be very fine with that
Perfect.
adjustment.
Mr. President, there was nothing wrong with the process.
Yeah.
And I agree with Manager Wagaman that the CAC makes recommendations, not approvals.
Yeah.
And so I don't see any need for the change in the program.
Okay.
But I do support the money for the program. And
Yeah, clearly. Any further discussion? If not, we've had a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, passes.
Okay, and there's a second motion here.
Second motion here is
So
approve the HEI task order 2023-011 for engineering review of the 2024 Stormwater Management Grant Program applications, and I so move that.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Administrator.
Yes. Manager Bradley, Board of Managers, next on your actions requiring board, the items requiring board action is number 4, which is professional development. Kendra Sommerfeld. As the board may recall, the district employee handbook includes continued professional development and educational assistance. Kendra, our communication and outreach coordinator, is asking to utilize this benefit. I've reviewed the materials, find them consistent with the interests of the district and the requirements of her graduate studies, which is a Master's of Natural Resource Stewardship with focus on natural resource management and communication. The process does require this to go before the board, and successful completion of the studies before any reimbursement.
Why, Mr. President, can I ask, why does the process have to go to the board on this? I mean, this seems like a decision you should be making, to be honest with you. And I'm just curious why it has to come to the board.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Manager Bradley, Board of Managers, because that's the adopted policy, is
That's what I
the
was-
short.
That's what I was
Yeah,
wondering, if
the-
that's what it was.
The short, unfortunately, not intending to be sassy. But, yeah, I think it's good for you to know the utilization and so on. Maybe this is the best place for that to occur.
I agree that you could tell us, but I mean,
Sure.
I don't know why we have to
Yeah,
approve it.
yeah.
It,
That
We-
was,
We could look to amend if you'd like and delegate that authority.
Mr. President, I agree that the present policy is to bring it to the board. And the purpose is to keep the board informed as to what's going on. It also, it's possible with this course of business, you could be approving something that's greater than the limits of the administrator's ability to propose. You know, say you had a complete tuition program for over a time. Now, that isn't true in this particular one because we're doing 2 credits at a time or a few credits, and it's a couple $1,000s for the cost of this course. But if you're working on a master's degree, that takes a few years, I reckon, and it could be very costly, and it's something that the board should be aware of, what's going on. So while I think that's the present policy is very good,
fair enough.
I'd keep it at that, because otherwise, how do you know what's going on? See, you know, I mean, you could get one of these constant 999,099 deals, you know, which is just underneath the limit. And
That's quite a course.
and yeah, you know, and never be aware of it. So I think it's, and by the way, I'm a supporter of this program and have been for many, many years, and was a promoter of it before I think any of you are on the board. So I'm glad to see it being used, and I've also been encouraged many staff members to use this program, and I've been discouraged that enough of them haven't used the program. But again, I want to know what we're spending the money on, you know. So
would you like to move that motion as a longtime?
no, I don't have any problem moving this motion. Yeah, no, I would approve the reimbursement for the natural resource inventory and data analysis and wetland ecological and restoration course at Colorado State University for Ms. Sommerfeld. Demonstrates successfully completing the course with a C grade or better. Yes.
I second that.
Any discussion?
Manager Bradley?
Yes, sir.
I think it's important to note for the board's discussion that this is, I'll say, above and beyond the activity that staff routinely has. We do have continuing education and attendance of our conferences, MOD, Minnesota Water Resources. As you know, our staff do participate at a professional level. They do make presentations at these conferences and such, and so we do have a significant and a routine process of continuing our education and keeping people abreast of changes in the field. And Kendra here is obviously seeking something that's slightly different than that, but again, in our district policy.
And Mr. Chair, just relating this to the other discussion we just had about the stormwater management grant, if any of you are following the Rice Creek Facebook page, and again, not associated with this program, but with the communication outreach, there's lots of information that gets forwarded, not only from what the Rice Creek Watershed is doing, but what our partners are doing. So yet another way of entities to find out about programs and events that we're hosting.
Is that widely known?
It is
The
now.
Facebook page? Well, there are a lot of,
It is now.
I'm on a variety of, you know, like Bald Eagle Area Association's Facebook page.
well, we should have invites
We should-
to all of you for the
Let's all
Facebook
become
page.
friends.
Manager Bradley, Board of Managers, yes, the district does have a I'll say, strong social media presence in a number of different platforms, and God knows they'll just keep creating them and have us using our phones and such. But we will be rolling out
The new
to
website.
share with you the new website, and obviously that's one venue that will also involve those types of links.
Board of Managers, another comment in the Zoom chat here. Kendra says thank you.
Ask Kendra whether or not a C is a passing grade on a master's program. Never mind. All in favor, we have a motion? We have a motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None, passes. Thank you, Kendra, good luck.
She gets all A's. That's what the sign
Well,
it says right here.
Well, you know,
Manager Bradley.
because
Get all A's.
I'm pretty darn sure that a C is a failing grade in a grad program. Okay,
Manager Bradley, next on the agenda is the check register.
Mr. Chair, I just want to inform you that I do have quarterly meetings with Nick and Teresa, and did so on Monday, and reviewed many items that are attentive to the treasurer. And I would also like to move that after review of the September 27th, 2023 check register and the September 2023 interim financial statements, both prepared by Redpath and Company, I move to approve the September 27th, 2023 check register in the amount of $281,336.01.
is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in
Looks
favor, say
good.
aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, passes. Mr. Administrator.
Yes, President Bradley, Board of Managers, next item is your staff reports. We're moving into the informational and discussion section. Those are found on page, starting on 101.
Any questions or comments?
I appreciate these reports.
I do too.
All right. Mr. Administrator.
Yes, Board of Managers, next on the agenda on page, the final page of the packet is the October calendar. I'll make note of the Ramsey County Ditch 4 Public Information Meeting, which will take place on October 3rd at 6:30 in the Willow Room at Roseville City Hall. And the rest is your customary agenda.
Is the Ramsey County Ditch 4 Public Information Meeting bulletin for members, board members? Is
Yes, it is.
noticed?
It's posted accordingly.
All right, I just wanted to make sure in case I showed up and the other two were there, you know.
Yep,
Didn't have a
appreciate that.
oopsie.
So you did say it will be posted.
It was.
It is posted, it's a
Okay, yep,
meeting.
thank you.
So just note that I will not be present for the Tuesday, October 3, 6:30 PM meeting. I will be out of town. John, you, once again, to the extent there are formal duties or whatever informal duties, I would ask you to fulfill them.
Oh,
I'm sorry, on what
it's
day was
just
that?
an
The 4th?
informational duty.
Yeah, I know, I don't expect there to be,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
October 3rd.
No, yeah, I assume it's gonna be similar to the one we had many years ago.
Yep.
There.
Manager Bradley?
Yep.
Board of Managers, perhaps it's important to just add a bit of clarity here. So this is informational meeting ahead of a project, and here we want the landowners in the area to be aware of what we're doing. In contrast to the recent one we had on JD3, there you had already ordered a project, and we were coordinating with landowners and the actual impact or lack of impact that it may have on their property. So here it might be good to hear, you know, the wealth of input ahead of your consideration of the project itself.
You know, they're very useful, and we like to fly the flag when we can, so.
Yes, I would agree.
Just for a little history, at least on my part, that first meeting, it was in January of 2020. That was the first meeting I attended as a board member or manager. And then shortly after that is when we shut down for COVID. So
Still shutting down for COVID.
yes. And it was very cold, as I recall, and that was the start of the whole ditch 4 projects, which resulted again in that incredible development on County Road C. So we just continue with that. So I will be there for sure, Mr. Chair.
Fabulous. Administrator, your updates?
Yes, thank you. Administrator updates. I'll make note that I believe just this morning, Quad Press released an article in regards to Centerville Lake and the potential water management district and our efforts there for an home treatment. So you might look for that. I haven't read it myself, but
Yeah, I know that we received an inquiry from Don, somebody from Centerville, asking if we could cut cattails instead. I'm assuming you will suggest that, respond to that for us.
I will look for that. Thank you. Following up from there, just a note that we are keeping communication open with Mr. Stowe. That's the gentleman that met with the board at its recent workshop, recognizing his questions and working to schedule a site visit with him and maintain the district's WACA obligations. We, staff have determined that the city-county partner meeting would best be held on November 8th from 1 until 3. That is your board meeting date. Double check here. Yes. November 8th, 1 to 3. And if there's no concern with that, we'll go ahead and,
I'll have to look, but I don't
Sure.
believe so.
yeah.
Where
Thank
are you
you.
going to hold it? Here?
We will, it'll either be Shoreview or New Brighton. Once we confirm the date, we'll reach out to those entities and schedule a space. Manager Bradley, I'll continue on.
Please.
I noted by email, and I think you received this morning, the City of Columbus letter. I found the letter to require an immediate inquiry regarding the minutes, so, but then moving on to there, shared it with the board. It is addressed to the board of managers as well. Want you to be aware of it, and you can consider the particular points, and if you'd like to respond further. I did make mention of the district's stormwater cost share program that we just discussed here, that is also available to them. Moving on from there, and somewhat related, the board direction and exploration of alternative 4 on Anoka County Ditch 102232. We are intending that for our November workshop, in which Houston will bring forth its memo from that investigation of that alternative. Certainly that's bearing any complications in deciphering the communications from the state on what the obligations will be.
That was the November workshop? Is that what I heard?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
And that is all I have.
Are you also planning to bring to the November workshop a discussion of any issues raised by managers as with regard to our budget for next year?
Manager Bradley, Board of Managers, yes, I have scheduled that for our October workshop. Yes, yep. So we'll review the regulatory program. I know that at the last meeting you were absent or away, approved leave. Yeah. The discussion of the certification of the levy, there was an interest in additional budgetary discussion. I haven't received any questions in regards to that as of this date, but that is on that agenda as well, October workshop.
That's a reminder to my colleagues that if they have something other than the regulatory program they wish us to discuss at that board, they should contact you as soon as possible to communicate that
Regarding the budget.
regarding the budget.
Thank you.
Thank you. I welcome any input. I have nothing further.
Okay, John, do you have any updates?
Well, I think I've updated everybody on how I feel about the budget and the drainage system. So I guess we're going to, coming up, the administrator said that we're going to have a meeting sometime with the county commissioners, our annual meeting, and then there'll be one I think it's the first meeting in November of the county board for their annual meeting there. I'd also kind of point this out to you just for informational purposes. That's all. And I have shared this with the administrator already. During the legislative session this year, the legislature passed a $2 million budget for meetings for the next 3 years amongst the cities, counties, state agencies, and Met Council and St. Paul Water Authority concerning what they're going to do about White Bear Lake and the levels. Watershed districts are not included in this, and I think that's a jurisdictional issue. It is. The city's not with us at this time, any district anyways. But there's going to be some way they're going to have to figure out how to do it. First of all, the Department of Natural Resources has gone to all the cities that were involved. And by the way, 7 of these cities of the 12 that are named in this legislation are here in Rice Creek. And 7 of them, although are not identical to the 7 in Rice Creek, are in Washington County. So just to give you an idea. In Rice Creek, it's Matamidi, which would also include Birchwood and Willerny. It's Hugo. It's in our part of the district. I think those are the 2 big ones. For Ramsey County, it's White Bear Township, the city of White Bear Lake. Oh, there's a little bit of White Bear Lake in Washington County too, but Shoreview, North Oaks, and New Brighton. I don't know why, but New Brighton is in there. I thought they went on the St. Paul Water Authority system, but in addition to that, in Anoka County is Lino Lakes. And in Washington County, additional is Stillwater, Woodbury, Oakdale. Ramsey County has North St. Paul also, and Lake Elmo. So I keep that in mind. The DNR has already gone to each one of these cities and reduced their permits that they can draw. Their current permits were reduced. How much, I don't know. I understand that each city is following an administrative process about the permit reduction of water they can take out. They're not doing this as a group, but rather individually. So each one has a separate, different circumstance. So that's kind of a big piece of news in a way, how it affects or impacts us. We don't know. You remember President Bradley, you and I, and others on the board here, Manager Wagaman, we attended meetings in Ramsey County some years ago. By the way, this process has been going on. It's been 6 years since that judge's decision. I was astonished to find that out, and it was going on before that. And so I don't know where the source of extra water will come from right now, but in my mind, after this year's drought and taking a look at Hardwood Creek and Clearwater Creek and Rice Creek and how low the water is. First of all, the lakes like Peltier and Centerville are higher than they would have been in '88 because of the extra 3 feet on the dam. Even though they're not flowing over the dam right now, it's still higher. And that's also true with Bald Eagle because we replaced the dam on Bald Eagle a little bit too. So I don't know where the source of water is going to be for White Bear Lake, where they do mow the cattails next to the docks. It's always enjoyable to take I encourage all of you to take a walk on Lakeshore Drive sometime during the summer season. Anyways, I just thought I'd share that with you. I don't know of how that's going to come. There's a lot of different ways. This might sound a little kooky, But, there's an old railroad line that I used to work on a long time ago when it was here, when we went to Stillwater with the lumber cars for Anderson Windows. And it goes directly from White Bear Lake to the St. Croix River.
So you're proposing that we fill up those cars that used to carry coal to the King plant with water and bring water from St. Croix to the White Bear Lake? That's brilliant.
Well, there isn't any track to do that. So,
well,
yeah, and
It'll be,
besides,
it'll be
and coal
cheaper than
car,
building a pipeline from the Mississippi all the way there.
That's true.
that's a right of way. And, they'll be looking for water and, just to, there's been several suggestions over the years involved how to use that water, and that's what they'll be talking about. So I just mentioned that old right-of-way still exists. It's a trail, by the way, and it happens to follow Browns Creek, so it has a nice grade to it. But that's an interesting piece of information to just, as we watch the saga of the never-ending saga of the White Bear Lake elevation issues.
Very good. RC?
Manager Bradley,
Yes, sir.
if I could, I think it's important for me to make note of your watershed management plan. And I appreciate everything that Manager Waller is sharing and the concerns and problems that groundwater is facing. And the district's focus is primarily surface water. And groundwater, our activity is a little more indirect. We look to force infiltration to restore the groundwater, and we also advocate strongly for stormwater reuse, so to decrease the groundwater pumping. And so as these things develop and the board discusses and defines a direction, we should make sure that we're in continuity with our plan or change it accordingly to make sure we're clear on our activity. That's all I wanted to share.
Well, just to be clear, this is a very long-term deal. This $2 million is good till 2027. I don't know that they'll have solved the issue at that time. And but I agree the plan adjustments if necessary, and they will be looking for surface water someplace, I'm sure.
Yeah. RC?
Thank you. Well, as you know, I am the watershed representative on the Clean Water Council and very pleased to do so. This past week, we had our monthly meeting and our every 2-year field tour. The focus this time around was on the metro area. So board council members who are new and who have served on the council for a while were updated and given information about the state of water quality in the 7-county metro area, including discussions about the MS4 permits, the smart salting, and PFAS. In addition, the Metropolitan Council addressed us, and Bowser did a piece on how metro watershed planning differs from the One Watershed, One Plan, and the long history of the Metro Watershed Planning and Grant Program. Also talked about health and water in the metro, which included groundwater issues and water quality and quantity. Natural resource DNR gave an update on how the clean water funds are used within the metro area, as well as the Department of Ag and clean water funds being used specifically on the Ag Water Quality Certification Program. So that was a full day of information, followed the next day by a full tour, which started in Afton Alps, looking at Trout Brook remeandering. Houston was involved in that. Then we went to see the Target parking lot in North St. Paul, which had a retrofit. Fascinating. From there, we went up to Forest Lake Sunrise River Highway 62 Wetland Enhancement Project and found out that I should be noting the watershed districts. So Southern Washington County Watershed District was Trout Brook. Ramsey, Washington Metro Watershed was the target parking lot. Forest Lake, Comfort Lake did the Sunrise River Highway 61 wetland enhancement project, where the watershed actually owns that land. I found that interesting. And for lunch, we had a fabulous presentation by Nick and Matt Koshin about the many clean water fund projects that Bryce Creek is involved with. Then we headed over to Edina, where Roseland Park Filtration Vault, another amazing project, which was by 9 Mile Creek. And then finished with Capital Region Watershed projects, which are the Highland Bridge Development, former Ford plant, and then Allianz Field with their water reuse. Wow. If you haven't been to Highland Bridge, take a look at that. And I think one thing I want to note about that project is they have a green development conservation district within that development. So it's already designed for all the stormwater management that would be coming off that development. The city prepaid for some of that, and as development occurs, whether office building or a housing project, they already have met the stormwater requirements, and they just plug into the system. A plug-and-play system here. Eye-opening all the way around, and I can give you any further information as needed. But that's what happened to me last week.
So, Mr. President, I did attend the lunch over at the.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry about that.
No,
Yep,
no, no,
yep.
no. I want to point out something. Manager Marcy gave a speech and was a strong advocate for using the clean water funds for the, not only the, like we did in Hanson Park, the combination of how they work for the stormwater conveyance system and they work for water quality. I think that, so tip the hat to you, miss.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
That was important to have that pointed out. And of course, the staff did their very good job as they did and appreciated it. But that point is very important, as you pointed out with your the email issue about when I read this email, there seems to be some controversy about how to use those funds, but using them in the metro area here for stormwater conveyance system and water quality combinations is essential.
Essential, yes.
And I wanted, that was a strong theme of her talk there at the lunch.
Right. Demonstrating, of course, that besides drainage, we also are concerned about water quality as a district. As our primary responsibilities, plural. Comments?
I have nothing today.
And I, too, have no update. Thank you for not burning the house down while I was gone, and we'll see you next meeting.
You did a good job in your absence.
Second, your motion of.
Oh, motion, move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Yeah, that's what I thought you made.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Second.
Absolutely. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
No opposed. Thank you all.